I do a lot of things. I gotta figure that saying out a little bit better, I think. So I guess a couple of you actually listened to that outro, huh? I mean, I really have to thank you for getting me to 100,000 subscribers. That is an insane milestone. For real, I have been dreaming about this milestone for the longest time, and it is absolutely amazing that I'm actually here and I can see this with my own eyes. Look out for something special regarding this in the near future. I can't say anything right now because I still need to do some planning. But speaking of special, let's go revisit a classic game from the Nintendo Wii. Does Sonic Colors still hold up in 2021? Well, color me surprised, cause I say, absolutely. Hello everybody, I'm Garrula64, and I like Sonic Colors! Go cry about it! Of course there are some problems with this new port, anyone with eyes and ears can see that, but you know, at the end of the day, it's still Sonic Colors on PC at 60 frames per second, and I can appreciate that. Probably clicked on this video expecting me to immediately start bashing this thing because of the, you know, hundreds of negative things that have been revealed already. But I also have a lot of good things to say about it, so this video is not going to be wholly negative. See, I haven't talked about the original version of the game yet, so I need to talk about everything and not just the stuff from the port, but everything from Ultimate will be sprinkled in when appropriate. But almost all of the footage will be from the port because 1080p 60 FPS. You do have to watch out for your eyes though, because I heard Blind Squirrel used to be just regular Squirrel before they started working on this game. Out of all the games I've reviewed so far, I haven't really had to discuss plot too much because it's mostly been handheld Sonic games with a very minimal plot, so you'd think moving to my first modern Sonic entry, there would actually be a bit more of a plot discussion, but as you might have heard, Sonic Colors doesn't actually have much of a plot. Coming off the heels of both Sonic 06 and Sonic Unleashed, this is the first Sonic game to be received super positively in quite a long time, but it's also the start of what people refer to as the meta era, and Sonic writing still hasn't quite recovered from the jump to this new style. So basically, instead of having anything that's heartwarming and dramatic, we now have memes and humor. By the time we hit Forces, the writing style has definitely improved, but they still lack the ability to tell engaging stories that can stand on their own without these little gags thrown in. So whenever they try to do something serious, it just comes off as really ironic or cringy. I'm not really sure, you know, what this was supposed to be.
I am not weak!
This is especially apparent now that we've seen Sonic Colors Rise of the Wisps, which is a small animated series starring Sonic and the gang in the setting of Sonic Colors, except the writing is a ton better and all of the jokes are actually funny. Not to mention the voice direction is also a lot better, but I guess that's comparing Roger's performance from, you know, the Wii era days to now, which means he's definitely grown as an actor in that time, but you know, sometimes direction plays a huge part in that. So the general story of this game is that Sonic and Tails notice that Eggman has built a gigantic amusement park in space and chained several planets together, just like he did in Sonic CD, except, I think, like, ×5, which is definitely more serious. So they head up there, and they're like, hey, he's probably doing something bad, you know, because obviously those 5 planets didn't, you know, sign up to get chained to his interstellar amusement park. And wow, lo and behold, he is doing something bad, and then Sonic and Tails go to stop him. That's pretty much it. I know you can pretty much boil any plot down to good guy stops bad guy, but this is really all there is. It almost feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, but it gets boring to watch halfway through, especially the Sonic and Tails parts. Because the thing is, Sonic and Tails are going through this whole adventure and slowly learning what Eggman's up to, but behind the scenes, we as the players see what Eggman's doing, and he explains to us what his plans are and how he's doing it and why he's doing it. So when Sonic and Tails start learning these things, it really doesn't feel like we need to see that, because we already know, and it doesn't add anything to the plot. Nothing they say is really that entertaining or useful, and I just started skipping things halfway through. I know I've played the game before, but I've only played it once, so you'd think I'd at least want to watch it a second time, but it's just so ineffective at what it's doing, I just didn't see the point. Though there is one line at the beginning of the game where Sonic becomes self-aware, so I'm at least willing to let that one slide.
I gotta hand it to the Eggster. This place is epic.
Suffice to say, this was my biggest problem with base colors, and I know humor is subjective, but I am a content creator and thus have never said anything that isn't funny, so you can trust me. The gameplay's relatively unchanged from what you remember it. It plays sort of like a slippery version of Unleashed, with the caveat of the drift and the quick step being mapped to very unfortunate places on your controller. Neither of these things can be used outside of the areas where the game has deemed you're able to use them, and to drift, you need to hold the boost button and then move the control stick, which means in these areas, you cannot boost, you can only drift. The quick step is mapped to the control stick with either a flick to the left or right. Sonic will dodge left or right, and it's usually used in areas where Sonic auto runs, but not always, which can get pretty annoying. See, on the Wii, with its lack of buttons, it's understandable that they would have to make these changes for the moveset to actually have it work. But on more modern controllers, there are plenty of buttons that aren't even being used, so there's no reason they couldn't have moved the Wisp button over to Y, which isn't being used at all, which would have freed up the bumpers here for the quick step. Could have also thrown the drift onto the back triggers, just like it is in Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Generations. But I mean, who am I to say? I'm not a game dev. What am I thinking? I throw a lot of things in my videos. This doesn't even mean that you would have had to make these abilities work outside of their intended locations. It just would have made the control scheme feel a lot more natural, and like a lot of the other stuff in Ultimate, feels like it would have been a really easy fix, but they just didn't really bother trying. New to Ultimate is Tails Assist. In the old game, you had a live system, but in this one, by collecting the severed head of your best friend, if you were to fall into a pit, Tails would lift you and your spirits back out of that pit, and then hold your hand for about 5 seconds too long before allowing you to get back to the level without having to restart at the checkpoint. This also has the benefit of saving the rings, wisps, and tokens you've collected, whereas a checkpoint would not do any of those things. Yeah, for some reason, when you collect tokens in these levels, if you die at any point, you just lose all of them. Not really sure what the deal with that is. Maybe it's a glitch, maybe it's not, but you know, I don't really know what is or isn't a glitch at this point, because somehow, after I finished the game, I ended up with 99,999 park tokens? And I swear I didn't cheat. I just kind of like played the multiplayer for a bit, and maybe I triggered some kind of debug command. But suffice to say, I unlocked everything without having to grind after I beat the game. So, cool. Thank you, Blind Squirrel. Very cool. On the topic of those customizations, by the way, in this game you're able to use these tokens to purchase things like gloves, boost auras, particles, and profile pictures. And the most expensive thing that you'll ever find, I believe, is 60 tokens, so it's not really too hard to get up to those higher numbers. Now, it might have sounded like I was leading into something that said I wasn't going to appreciate this feature, but I do actually, because it adds a lot of replayability to these levels. So you're able to go back and grind tokens in your favorite levels, which might lead to finding red rings, which we'll talk about later, and you could also just play short levels, like Starlight Carnival Act 4, which has 5 tokens and only lasts like 30 seconds at max. It's pretty easy. I mean, that one was my grinding spot of choice before I was just gifted Scrooge McDuck's money vault. I'm a pretty big fan of customization options like this, because while they don't add too much to the game, it does add replayability, because, you know, you're gonna have to go grind stages to get more tokens, and maybe while you're there you get more red rings, which are useful for things we'll talk about later. And I do appreciate it in this game, but I do have a couple problems with the things in general. So of course you can see the new gloves and shoes you put on Sonic in-game, especially at the beginning of levels when it's zoomed in on them. But once Sonic starts running around, sure, you can technically see them the entire time you're playing the levels, but Sonic is so small on screen, and couple that with all the motion blur that happens when you boost, and, you know, some of the new boost effects, because they kind of cover Sonic up, you only really see these things in detail at the start of levels, or when you're applying them, but even then it's kind of hard to see them because Sonic just won't stop running on the screen. I just want to see what they look like without him going... In most games with character customization like this, you might be able to see all these things in the cutscenes. Unfortunately, though, in this game, they just upscaled the old cutscenes, so there's no chance of you seeing these things in action, and I mean, it's not like you really want to watch the cutscenes anyway, because they're kind of boring. So the name of the game is Sonic Colors, and it do be pretty colorful, they ain't lying. Just by visiting the first stage of the game, Tropical Resort, you can see how beautiful everything is, but then you switch to the Ultimate version, and you kind of need a flashlight to see anything. Tropical Resort really looking like the newest Phasmophobia map over here. Yeah, obviously, this is the biggest complaint people have with this game. It's how awkward the visuals came out, because some levels are way too dark, some levels are way too bright, and honestly, the only level I actually thought looked fine was the Game Land stages. Which, I mean, good job not making the most boring-looking levels look bad, I guess. Over time, I was willing to look past these graphical flaws because it didn't affect the gameplay too much, but the one thing that always bothered me was the copious amounts of motion blur applied when you press the boost button. And in areas where it's super bright, like in Sweet Mountain, stuff like that, it makes it really hard on the eyes, and I really wish there was an option to turn that off. So anyway, like I was saying, Tropical Resort... Tropical Resort. Tropical. Okay, alright, the sound is messed up too. I'll talk about that as well, I guess. This is probably my biggest problem with the game, aside from the motion blur on the boost, because every single level, every second of this game practically has audio issues. The robot smashing noises, the homing attack sound, whatever it is the loudest sound in this game, and there is no exception to that. That happens every single time you attack an enemy. Sometimes sound effects only play through the left or the right earbuds, or the speakers, depending on what you're using, and that is not a thing that happens only occasionally. That is like once a level at least, especially in the ending sequences for some reason. Occasionally, some music will stop playing. Wisp music just doesn't activate sometimes, you only hear it like every so often. Huge issue, you can't actually turn down music and sound effects independently. It's only one slider, unlike in like every other game I've ever played of like, 2000 onwards. And of course the only thing I really want to hear in the levels most of the time, the Eggman announcements, are way too quiet. They're always drowned out by the music and the sound effects. So it's like, you can either turn those off completely, or you're just screwed. Like, there's just no winning with this. And it's honestly baffling that this was handed to me in this condition. On a more positive note, the entire soundtrack is remixed. I don't like all of the songs, but some of them are pretty good. And also the Jade Wisp song absolutely slaps, there's no question about that. Alright, back to positivity now, I promise. Tropical Resort is a ballin' first level. It's not a green hill, it's not a hill of any kind, it's just a really rad amusement park area. Running through this thing, you find out there are balloons, great tunes, and an ultimate gold doubloons. Bars? This is also where you're introduced to the level structure of this game, where you have 2 full acts of a stage, and then you have a bunch of mini acts. Think sort of like Generation's side missions, except these are actually mandatory. The first wisps we meet here are the Boost Wisps and the Laser Wisps. The Boost Wisps help you boost, and the Laser Wisps shoot you forward at such a high speed that not even Goku could keep track of Sonic. Goku is pretty good at that shit. Jade Wisp is also introduced here. It is new to Ultimate, and it's only really used a couple times throughout the adventure to get some red rings and stuff, but I really like it. It's a lot of fun, very wholesome fella. After completing every act in the zone, you are then sent to the boss area, and these things are really not a big deal, unless you are Aquarium Park's boss, which was all underwater and actually a lot more frustrating than I expected it to be. See, they end up reusing a lot of the same bosses, so when they reused the little pirate guy boss, I was like, oh, this isn't gonna be too bad, but also, you gotta guide a missile over to this glass carriage, sort of like in Mario Galaxy when you fight Mega Leg, except when you fight Mega Leg, it's not hard in the slightest, and this is like, oh wow, RNG is not being kind to me today. I have to say though, even though they're easy, the airship bosses are really fun, because you get to chase them down, and then you just wail on them until they stop moving, and I'm not a psychopath, I promise. It's just really fun. Next on the docket, Sweet Mountain. It's a pretty sweet level. Man, I should probably retire. I'm never gonna write a joke as funny as that again. I've always liked food-themed areas because, like, cheeseburgers aren't supposed to be that big. That's crazy. The Drill Wisp is found here, and it allows Sonic to burrow through the cake that he's always running around on, and honestly, he's really lucky that he didn't leave this level looking like this, because I sure would've. Unfortunately, this is also the birthplace of the fandom's favorite joke.
Baldy nose hair! That's the best thing I've heard all day! I gotta remember that one.
And remember that he did. For way too long. Starlight Carnival is my old favorite level. I still like how it looks despite the graphical upgrade, but you know, the thing I didn't like about it much was all of the sections where you're running automatically, and it's basically just like a playable cutscene, or you're in a 2D section, and I'm not a huge fan of the 2D sections, and this game has a lot of 2D sections, guys. I bet you've never heard anyone talk about that before. Despite that though, it's not a stage that I dislike playing, it's just not my favorite anymore. It also houses a Wisp I'm not super psyched about. That is the Cube Wisp. It just turns blue rings into blue cubes and vice versa. It's used for some very hectic platforming here and there, and it's even a little frustrating sometimes, but I mean, it's not bad. And then we have the very creatively named Hover Wisp, which does exactly as it says it does, but it also has this other ability that lets you dash along a trail of rings at a very fast speed. I just don't know what we would call that. It doesn't matter. Sonic would never be able to do that on his own, so it doesn't really matter. There's no way I'm gonna be able to say construction structures without f***ing up. There's not a single chance I get that one try. Planet Wisp is a lush paradise of a stage bogged down by Eggman's garish red construction structures. I did it! I did say It's also unfortunately one of my least favorite stages because it has my least favorite level design. It also has my least favorite wisps, those being Rocket and Spikes. Rocket sends you upwards at an astonishing rate, and then you fall back down, and you either access alternate paths or goodies, and Spikes lets you spin dash all along walls really quickly unless you are just on the ground, in which case you are rolling around at the speed of molasses. See, I actually remember hating this level in Generations as well, specifically for the reasons I just stated. So, it's funny how that worked out, huh? Now, the only interesting thing I have written in my notes about this stage is piss cubes in all caps, and I think I was referring to this level with these vanishing cubes. I guess I just found the gimmick really fun, the platforming was entertaining, but that's a little insight onto how I set up these videos, I guess. Once you free the homeland of the Wisps, the floodgates are opened and Aquarium Park comes rushing out to meet you. There are no new Wisps to find here, so you just end up using a lot of the other Wisps you found along the way. If Sonic Colors can be remembered for one thing, it's the fact that Sonic finally learned how to swim, or perhaps he's just defying physics, I can't really tell. See, now that you have the ability to leave the water whenever you want, water levels aren't quite as scary, which makes this place a lot more enjoyable, and in addition, you got that bumpin' soundtrack, and it's like, give it up for Aquarium Park, it's the best song in the game. I'm not taking any detractors on that, it's really good. The final full world in Sonic Colors is Asteroid Coaster, which is actually my new favorite zone in the game, despite it containing one of my least favorite stages. This is a dank area full of green goop and roller coasters that I hope are not made out of real bones, because, you know, if they are, that's a huge step up from just turning people into robots. Almost all the platforming in this zone, aside from the Yellow Spring level, is super enjoyable. All of the set pieces are really cool, like homing attacking asteroids through space, and running around the rings of Saturn, and just, oh my god, it is so much fun. And like, if you compare it to the space stage in Sonic Forces, like, the difference is night and day. You know, like when the sun goes to bed and becomes the moon. Okay, alright, moving on. Like I said a second ago, though, there is a level in this area that has you bouncing on a Yellow Spring the entire time, and the timing on everything is just really, really frustrating, and it's just like, this is one of the only areas in the entire game where I actually got a little bit heated. But it was not the only one. This stage has one of my favorite Wisps, the Frenzy Wisp. This turns Sonic into an unstoppable rabid dog-looking creature. It doesn't even look like, why do I keep saying that? It doesn't look like a rabid dog. I've never seen a dog that looks like this. This one transforms Sonic into this rabid creature of some sort that will just munch and crunch everything in its path until it grows to a gargantuan size. And then it's like, yeah, nothing can stop this unless you touch a spring, and then you just, boop, you bounce up, Sonic's fine, don't worry about it, nothing happened. These Wisps are actually corrupted Wisps that have had all their energy drained by Eggman, so Sonic is dealing with some pretty extreme measures here, like, imagine if he actually ended up going rogue because of all this negative energy, like, the amusement park would be in some hot water pretty quickly. Or, you know, Murphy's Law could just come into effect, I'm pretty familiar with that myself. Hey, that's pretty cool though, I guess the final level's open, I mean, you just get right to it, right? Alright, can we talk about difficulty curves for a second? Because usually, right, they're supposed to look, you know, like this, like a natural incline, you know? But Sonic Colors looks a little bit more like this. That's Mount Everest, by the way. It's pretty tall, or so I've been told. Alright, so on paper, terminal velocity is a really great idea for a level. It's Sonic running as fast as he can to get away from this collapsing theme park. But the thing about it is, it's one giant auto-scrolling section, and you need to use the quick step, which I already mentioned is pretty awkward. So basically what happens is, you run through a couple sections of enemy gauntlets, right? And by the time you get to this one section that's really hard, you've already eclipsed 2.5 minutes of level just about. So if you die there over and over and over and over and over and over and over again like I did, you could rack up 30 minutes on the clock, and every time you want to get back to this part to try it again, you gotta go through like 2.5 minutes of gameplay where you just can't go any faster. And it's like, that's why I hate auto-scrollers so much, because like, the game is telling me what pace I'm allowed to go at, and it takes so long to get back to where I need to try again, that I end up forgetting what I'm supposed to do. But hey, it doesn't even matter really, because those enemy patterns are completely random. So all of those times I was trying to just memorize it, didn't really work. Oh, okay. Alright, I'm gonna try to, like, backpedal and just say after that, the final boss is really cool, at least. You're chasing down Eggman in this gigantic corrupted Wisp mech, and he's using all of your powers against you, which I always think is a really fun idea. So after you attack him, you end up taking your powers back one by one, and then at the very end of it, you use all of them simultaneously for the final color blaster, You slice right through them like some kind of crazy shonen anime thing. I love that kind of stuff. It's super fun. And that ends Sonic Colors. The Wisps fly away, never to be seen again, except in every single game after this to this very day. And, oh yeah, we forgot to talk about Metal Sonic. He's in this game. First showing up in Rise of the Wisps, the animated series, Metal Sonic is here to challenge Sonic to some races, but he did not appear for me at all throughout the entire game, and I wasn't really sure why. Turns out you need to collect half of the red rings in each of the zones for him to show up and challenge you to a race. There is one race in each zone, and defeating him in each zone gets you new unlockables. Namely, that would be the Dark Aura and the Dark Boost, which look pretty cool, but you know, the races I think are more the rewards, because they're actually pretty challenging. See, they really test your knowledge of the levels, because they end up being dev times, and it's just like a ghost you're racing against. You're not actually doing something like in Generations or Sonic CD. And most of the time, Metal Sonic just sort of looks like he no-clips through things, and he seems a lot faster than you, and I think that's because he's actually a replay of someone using Super Sonic. Overall, though, I think these are a nice inclusion to the game. I kind of wish they were on every single stage, to be honest, but maybe that would have been too much, and some of the stages would have been too frustrating, but whatever. And speaking of Super Sonic, I mentioned Gameland before. As you collect red rings, you open new areas in Gameland, and you're able to get the Chaos Emeralds eventually once you complete all 3 acts in each zone. I haven't done that because I played Sonic Colors for 6 hours straight yesterday, and I didn't want to play anymore at the time. I'm gonna do it eventually, but you know what Super Sonic is like. He's yellow, and that's pretty much it. And I guess that's everything I wanted to cover about Sonic Colors and Sonic Colors Ultimate. It's a pretty good game, which is slightly bogged down by a very, very subpar port job. If you're able to look past all the graphical issues and the sound issues, this is a game I recommend. This is probably the easiest way to play it these days, too, and if you've never played this game before, I think this is definitely a Sonic game you want to experience at least once. But if you'll excuse me, I think I'm going to take some cues from Blind Squirrel, and I'm going to make some ultimate remasters of my own. These guys are the Chads of remakes. They added a whole new boss to this game that replaces whatever robot master you're playing as. Bloom. This is Copy Robot. He has a very unique and clever name. Oh yeah, left ear pod. That's all. Yep. Who deserves to be there. Yep. Seal of approval. We got a good product there. That'll be out next week. You're welcome. Notice how much a little bit of neckwear can really enhance a character design. Oh my gosh, you made it to the end of the video! Thanks so much for watching all this way. If you made it this far, please let me know down in the comments. It's almost like you're in a secret club, because not a whole lot of people make it here. Huge shout out to Sega and the Sonic social media for sending me a review code for this game. I had a lot of fun reviewing it and also playing it. Ultimately, I do like... that was a pun. Ultimately, I do like Colors. It is a really fun game. I'm just a little bit disappointed with some of the presentation stuff. But it is definitely worth your time. But anyway, if you like this video and haven't already, please make sure you subscribe, click the bell, follow my Twitter, and join the Discord to keep up with more Sonic and other things that aren't Sonic, because I do a lot of things. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to my current supporters, who are Brady Hilkemeyer, Noah Wizbios, Mailman019, Kaido the Samurai, Danny Lee Dauber, Mike TGC, Chaotic Mercenary, Dex, Nick Runcraze, Hooked Drago, T-Bone APH, The 7 Superstars, Crystal, Ty Little Tech Guy, PM13, Chaos, Jeremy, Dork in a Hat, Mega Traffic Cone, and on Patreon we have Noah Wizbios and T-Bone APH again, as well as John the Real Waluigi. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, it really means a lot, and also thank you to everyone who is in the $1 tiers, because even $1 can help a lot. If you have any interest in becoming a supporter yourself, you can go check out the card up there or the join button beneath the video, and you get access to a whole bunch of Discord perks, such as a secret channel where I discuss a lot of upcoming projects, post thumbnail stuff, and occasionally we post bloopers. You can also check out, we have a TikTok and an Instagram now where we post shorts if you want to see those as well. I'm just probably not going to add those to the, the counting thing because I only have 5 fingers. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.